Yo, so what is good, everybody on YouTube? We are back today with a brand new video, and of course you saw the title. It is a Michael Porter Jr. career simulation. Obviously really came to life in this bubble, and I'm very interested to see how he will do, starting at an 81 overall. And by the way, thank you all for hitting that like button and the subscribe button. It does help out a ton. So here we go in year one. Ja Morant actually gets Rookie of the Year, and as you did see, we did make the All-NBA second team here with a very good record coming out of the West with 50 wins. You love to see it. Michael Porter Jr. pretty solid season right here with 15.4 points per game. Not bad at all for technically his rookie season. First round matchup here up against the Warriors, who are obviously a pretty tough team when everybody is healthy, which they always are in these sims. Michael Porter Jr. led our team in scoring, but we just could not get it done. Obviously going to the finals here, the Clippers up against the Bucks, a matchup that very well could happen in real life as well this year. And let's see just how this one plays out. And the Bucks are pulling away, ended up taking it 4-1 with Giannis Antetokounmpo getting MVP. Not sure if that's how it would go in real life, because they have actually struggled a little bit so far early in the playoffs, but we will see. Moving into year two here, 83 overall Michael Porter Jr. Definitely starting to get better and better now at a age of 22. Third highest overall on the team behind Jamal Murray and obviously Nikola Jokic. Giannis Antetokounmpo gets regular season MVP here in year two. Looking at the standings, we actually took a step back this year, only getting about 40 wins on the season, going 40-42. It still was enough to secure us a playoff spot, but definitely not where we want to be going forward. Bol actually had a very great year as well, and Michael Porter Jr. ramped up his scoring to 19.4 points per game. So let's check out who we're going to be up against in the first round of the playoffs here. And despite it saying that we did make the playoffs right here as the X right there for clinching, it looks like we actually did not make the playoffs because I do not see us anywhere on here. I'm not really sure how that one worked out, but it is what it is, so we'll just sim through. Celtics up against the Clippers here in the finals. Obviously, Jason Tatum getting very good up against this Clippers team that did drop it last year to Giannis and the Bucks. So let's see how this one turns out. Celtics actually do the same thing that Giannis and the Bucks did, 4-1 there, getting the dub. Jason Tatum getting his first finals MVP of this sim. Moving us into year three here. Obviously, you do not see Michael Porter Jr. on this squad. So where did Michael Porter Jr. end up signing after that rookie contract? Let's check it out. So it looks like he signed with the Pistons, now at an 87 overall in the age of 23. Let's check out what this squad's looking like and if it's a team that we think he can win with. John Wall, Michael Porter Jr., James Wiseman, Zaire Williams, definitely not a bad team at all. Some great potential players there for him to play around, and I really do like the fit, honestly, especially for maybe a comeback for John Wall with a 4-year signing contract right there, locking him in for a little bit. Giannis gets MVP right here, as you can see, and let's check out these standings. We get 48 wins, not bad, definitely gets us a playoff spot. Love to see it. 22.5 points per game, leading the team in scoring for Michael Porter Jr., really stepping up, and obviously right behind him, the tank that is James Wiseman, and a good comeback season there for John Wall as well. And here in the first round of the playoffs, we are going to be finding ourselves up against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. Definitely not a first round matchup you want to see, but we surprisingly end up taking it 4-0 and holding them to only 91 points of scoring in game 4. Definitely surprising there, in all honesty. Second round matchup up against the Toronto Raptors with Pascal Siakam, and unfortunately they do end up taking it from us in 7. Despite a great game there from John Wall, Pascal Siakam just did enough to get it done. Moving us to the finals here that we are going to be unfortunately watching from the bench. We got our former team, the Nuggets, up against KD and the Brooklyn Nets here. Brooklyn Nets up to 2-1, and it's honestly a very back-and-forth series, going back and forth, and ultimately, KD ends up having a little comeback and getting himself another championship, but this time in Brooklyn. Now we are moving into year 4. Michael Porter Jr. is now the highest rated player on the team for sure at a 91 overall, just getting better and better each season. Luka Doncic ends up getting an MVP season, averaging 36.2 points per game here, which is kind of insane. As we finish the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference with a fantastic season, which you love to see. Michael Porter Jr. putting up 24.8 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game to go along with that. Right behind him, trailing, is James Wiseman having a fantastic season, and we actually have 4 guys over 20 points per game this season, which is definitely very, very good offensively. Looking at our first round matchup here, us as the number 1 seed is up against the number 8 seed, Giannis Antetokounmpo-led Bucks, and they only get 1 game on us as we knock them out 4-1. Thankfully, not making that a sweaty series at all. James Wiseman doing his thing, and obviously Giannis having a huge game there. Moving us into the second round up against the Charlotte Hornets, where we take it 4-0 as well. We do love to see that 32 points there from Zaire Williams. Moving us into the Eastern Conference Finals up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and yet again, they just did not stand a match. We're beating them 4-1. Michael Porter Jr. drops a whopping 42 in that game. Dallas Mavericks here, Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, and Kristaps Porzingis up against our Detroit Pistons team. Will definitely be a tough series. Back and forth very early in this one. They get up 3-2. We come back 3-3, taking it to Game 7. And as you can see, unfortunately, when we hop into Simcast in Game 7 here, it's not looking great. We are down 138-115, and it's looking like Dallas Mavericks are getting themselves a championship here. And more than likely, Luka Doncic will be the one getting the Finals MVP here. You win some, you lose some. We will take our W's and our L's. I think one of these next couple years, we surely should get back to the championship and maybe even win it. Unfortunately, this was not the year despite going to 7 games with this Mavericks team. Of course, let's look at the box score and see just how this one actually played out as far as that goes. And as you can see, Luka Doncic absolutely went off for 50 points there. And honestly, no one else could compete with him there. Of course, he does get Finals MVP. It is what it is. Moving us into year 5 of the sim. As you can see, at 93 overall, Michael Porter Jr. here, starting to get a little bit of accolades more and more. James Wiseman out at 92, and we even have a 88 overall Malcolm Brogdon on the squad now as well. To fast forward to the end of the season, Luka Doncic gets MVP and Most Improved Player of the Year goes to James Wiseman, securing us the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. James Wiseman, huge season there, with another 25.6 points per game coming from MPJ as well, to go along with that 27.3 from Wiseman. Our team's looking very, very deep and very solid here. You love to see it. First round matchup up against the 8th seeded Washington Wizards here. 7th seeded, my bad. We are the 2 seed. We knocked them out 4-2. Chet getting 27, but not enough to drop off Michael Porter Jr. and Wiseman, who both put up over 30 in the game themselves. Moving us on to round 2 here, up against a Brooklyn Nets team with Kyrie and KD still, and they were not enough to get it done. We knock them out 4-2 here in 6. You love to see that, which will ultimately move us to the Eastern Conference Finals here, up against the Philadelphia 76ers. Huge game there from James Wiseman, of course. Eastern Conference Finals, Michael Porter Jr. is back. Not Michael Porter Jr. Michael Carter Williams is back on the Sixers, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, his Rookie of the Year season was there. 39 points there from MPJ, absolutely snapping, getting us that dub for Eastern Conference Finals. Up against Luka and the Mavs yet again here in the finals. We find ourselves up 3-1 in the series, which looks good. Hopping into Simcast, they grab a game, unfortunately. And let's hop into this one, a very close game. To go up 2 right there. So the Dallas Mavericks will be up 2 with about 47 seconds left on the shot clock in this to push it potentially to a Game 7 if they win, or us to end the series. That's no good. James Wiseman gets the board and ties it up at 143, having a huge game, 48 points so far with about 38 seconds left in this one. So let's see just how this plays out. The Mavericks definitely do have the ball here, and no one is guarding Luka as he greens up for a corner 3, making the Mavericks go up 3 here with only about 36 seconds left in this one. Not looking great. Pistons are going to have to get a bucket here if they want a chance. Wiseman does indeed get a bucket, making it a 1-point game with 20 seconds left. They're going to have to foul. Of course they do foul. He hits 1 of 2 at the line, making it a 2-point game with about 16 seconds left here. A perfect opportunity for them to tie it up with a 2. Colin Gillespie handling the ball as the primary playmaker right now, over to James Wiseman, who's obviously been having a fantastic game. About 3 seconds left, and he gets fouled on the layup with 2.7 seconds left. We need him to clutch up these free throws, and wow. James Wiseman sells possibly the biggest free throw of the game, and you hate to see that. Going up for a second, and he bricks that one as well. That's a tough scene, causing us to lose that game by 2 points and pushing this series to a Game 7. You hate to see it. 52 points there from Luka and 36 from Jalen Brunson, as well as 50 from James Wiseman. Going to Game 7, and wow, we just blew a 3-1 lead, and Luka Doncic gets himself yet another Finals MVP there. That series was just honestly tragic to watch. Could have definitely went our way very easily. Just some free throws were all that mattered. Moving into Year 6, we're hopping right into playoffs here. In Year 6, we are the number 2 seed, and Michael Porter Jr. coming in second on the team and scoring right behind Wiseman, who almost had 25 points per game yet again. First round matchup up against the Atlanta Hawks yet again. Last time we beat them pretty easily, and it actually looks like it's going to be the same this time, as we beat them in a clean sweep 4-0. Trae Young could not get it done for his squad. Moving us into the second round here up against the Wizards. And yet again, another fairly easy win, 4-1, 31 there from Michael Porter Jr. Huge series, of course. Moving us into the Eastern Conference Finals here. And hopefully it will be a pretty easy matchup and we can make it to the finals up against the Sixers. We have beat this team before, so hopefully it stays that way. And boom, in 6 we do take it. Moving us back to the finals here, this time up against the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson. Hopefully we'll have better luck this year, and it's not looking great. We are down 3-0 here, and they end up sweeping us with Zion getting Finals MVP. A rough scene moving us into Year 7. And in Year 7 here, Michael Porter Jr. is now up to a 94 overall. And you can see his accolades are starting to build up now. A 3-time All-Star, and he has made the All-NBA third team once at this point in the sim. Cade Cunningham gets a regular season MVP here with the Thunder, 30 points per game, and a double-double with assist as well. Number 1 seed we do take in the Eastern Conference here with over 60 wins with the Pistons. You love to see it. 27.4 points per game for Wiseman, and right behind him, Michael Porter Jr. putting up 27 a game. First round matchup up against the Magic. Honestly, a pretty interesting Magic roster right there, but not enough to get it done. Wiseman having a huge game, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lonzo just were not enough to get it done. Up against the Hawks in the second round, who we have played plenty of times. 4-0 sweep over them. Huge game there from Wiseman, dropping 40 points. Moving us into the Eastern Conference Finals up against the Washington Wizards. We get up 2-1. Oh, they're coming back on us, and it is going to 7 here. And in 7, we thankfully do end up taking it with a 38-point performance from Michael Porter Jr. Finals here up against the OKC Thunder and LeBron James Jr. Let's see how this one plays out. Thunder up, and it is a very back-and-forth series pretty quickly. A 3-2 lead for us going in, and we hop into the playoffs up 129-117. Make that 131-117 with 30 seconds left. So, of course, we have locked this up to take the dub over LeBron James Jr. and the OKC Thunder. Michael Porter Jr. will be getting his first Finals championship right here. You love to see it. Of course, all they have to do now is just run that clock down, and that is a dub. We do finally get Michael Porter Jr. a championship in this sim after all that tough time of losing 3 times in the championship. So he is now 1-3 Finals a record. But kind of interested to see what the stats were looking like from that one, to be all honest. Not sure if James Wiseman will get Finals MVP or if it will be Michael Porter Jr. Huge game there from both of them, honestly. And Wiseman carrying a little bit more of the load there. Cade Cunningham and LeBron James Jr. could not get it done. And let's see who gets Finals MVP here for this one with the Pistons. And it is James Wiseman at a 95 overall taking the limelight. Moving us into Year 8. Thankfully, we finally did crack it and get that first championship, because that's always the hardest one to get. Looking at the roster here, definitely still a very solid one that we can get stuff done with for sure. Michael Porter Jr. still in his prime pretty much, honestly, as well. Amani Bates actually ends up securing himself an MVP here with the Pacers, which is kind of interesting. A new name getting thrown in there, obviously a younger guy as well. Looking at the All-NBA teams, Michael Porter Jr. does get third team right there. We only get the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is not the greatest thing ever. 30.5 points per game there for Wiseman, 14.5 rebounds per game as well. And of course, Michael Porter Jr. putting up about 28, 29 points per game yet again. Huge season for him. First round, we got the Milwaukee Bucks, who we have defeated several times in these sims, so let's hope we can do it again. And obviously a huge upset there for us as the 7th seed to take out the 2-seeded Bucks right there in a 4-0 sweep. Second round up against the Magic, who again we take out. This 7th seed is moving on up to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now the real question is, who are we going to be facing? It looks like we're going to be up against Emoni Bates and the Pacers, which I don't really want to be going up against the guy that won MVP this season, because it's going to end like that. 49-point performance there for him to take it from us 4-1. Pacers up against Cade Cunningham and Bronny. Of course, the team that we did bounce from the championship last year. And let's see how this one ends up playing out. The Pacers go to Game 7 with them, and thankfully they do take it in 7. Emoni Bates gets himself a chip. Moving into year 9 of the sim here. Still a very similar team. 87 overall, Malcolm Brogdon. 87 overall, Gillespie. 95 overall, Porter Jr. And 96 overall, Wiseman. Cade Cunningham gets himself an MVP right there. And we finish the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Unfortunately, we get bounced here in the first round by the Atlanta Hawks, which is a tough scene. We're just going to be watching from the sidelines. Dallas Mavericks with Luka up against the Pacers with Emoni Bates, of course, and De'Aaron Fox. I would give them a slight edge, but this series could be anyone's series in my opinion here. Pacers up 3-1, and they end up taking it 4-1 with Emoni Bates getting an MVP. Moving us into year 10 of the sim. Still a 94 overall Michael Porter Jr. and a 96 overall James Wiseman teamed up here still. 6 All-Star appearance seasons for Michael Porter Jr. this far throughout the sim. Unfortunately, our guy Malcolm Brogdon has been hitting a little bit of a regression at this point, so some of our players are going to start going downhill. Cade Cunningham getting a regular season MVP there, and for the first time in a long time, we do not make the playoffs at all, which definitely sucks. Both James Wiseman and Michael Porter Jr. both put up 26.8 points per game, actually identical points per game. Kind of interesting to see. Pelicans here up against the Wizards in the finals, and Zion Williamson is going to be getting another finals MVP there and another chip. You see Kawhi, Dame, and Paul George actually retiring and ending up in the Hall of Fame after year 10, moving us into year 11. In year 11 here, let's see what's going on. 91 overall Michael Porter Jr. Unfortunately, he's starting to regress a little bit. 96 overall James Wiseman, and not too confident about this team really making a run at this point, unfortunately. Cade Cunningham here, MVP season of the regular season. We end up as the 4th seed, which is definitely a great bounce back from last season. James Wiseman absolutely turning up, and our guy Michael Porter Jr. still doing his thing, 26.4 points per game, even though he's still hitting that regression, which is kind of crazy. So first round here, we're gonna have an interesting matchup most likely. Let's see what it's all about. And in the first round, we have a matchup here up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. It is a tied series, 3-3, pushing it to Game 7. Let's just see how this one goes. Can we make it out of the first round? I very much hope so. And it's looking good for us here as we have a ginormous lead in the 4th, and we end up taking this one 149-124, allowing us to move on to the second round. Huge game there from Michael Porter Jr., dropping 45 points. Second round here up against, of course, Giannis and the Bucks yet again. And let's see how this one turns out here. He did get himself a better center there in Big O. 1-1 going back and forth with them. They get a game, and they're up 3-1, so it's not looking great. We get bounced by Giannis 4-1 here. Michael Porter Jr. dropping 32, still was not enough. Trailblazers versus the Bucks here in the finals. And the Bucks with a huge comeback season, actually sweeping the Blazers here 4-0 in the year 2030 for Giannis to get yet another Finals MVP. Moving us into year 12. Michael Porter Jr. now down to an 88 overall. James Wiseman, obviously the highest overall on the team, and we are now the 3rd highest overall on the team. Cade Cunningham, 27.8 points per game. And Michael Porter Jr. now 6th man of the year. Not sure how that worked. We come in as the 6th seed. And despite having higher scoring numbers for him, Isaac Okoro must be starting for the team, even though Michael Porter Jr. is dropping 27.6 points per game. off the bench, which is kind of insane if you think about it. But Knicks first round matchup here up against LaMelo Ball and the Knicks. We knocked them out pretty easily, 4-1. LaMelo dropping 24 in that game, but could not get it done. James Wiseman, huge game there, moving us on to the second round up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Another 4-0 sweep. You'd love to see it. Moving us back into the Eastern Conference Finals up against Rui Hachimura, Bradley Beal, and the Wizards. Going to Game 7, and we hop into Simcast, a back-and-forth one early on. And it's looking good for us right here as we end up taking it 110-97. Big game there from Michael Porter Jr. Still hanging in with 27 points per game. In that game. Spurs in the finals here. Spurs 2-0, 2-1. It's not looking great. We get down 3-1, and they end up taking it in 5 with Patrick Phillips getting MVP, moving us into year 13. And it's honestly all downhill here for Michael Porter Jr. now at only an 85 overall. So let's check out just how year 13 turns out. Mikey Williams gets an MVP, and we do make the playoffs. But where is Michael Porter Jr. at? I'm going to look at the transaction report and see if something happened. Maybe we traded him, he got cut. I'm not really sure. Let's check it out. So go into the transaction reports and, of course, go over to the Pistons real quick and check that whole situation out. All right, now that we are right at the Pistons, we will see what happened to him. So he was involved in a trade. Michael Porter Jr. in a second-round pick for OG Anunoby. Not the greatest thing of all time, because I think that we might have just went from a team that did make the playoffs to a team that did not make the playoffs. Let's check out this Raptors team and see if that's true. Raptors squad, they did not make the playoffs, so that's a tough scene here. As you can see, we only had about 36 wins on the season. Looking at the stats here, though, Michael Porter Jr. still had a fantastic season, but being the second highest scorer on the team, still putting up over 20 points per game at this point. Thunder here in the finals up against the New York Knicks, I believe, who have LaMelo Ball, of course, at point guard. So this should be an interesting series to see. And let's see just how it plays out. Thunder up 3-1, and they end up taking it 4-1 pretty easily here. So GG's, there you go, Thunder. Cade Cunningham getting himself a Finals MVP. Moving us into year 14 of the sim, and of course, we are on the Raptors now, where we're the 4th highest overall. And we also have a pretty regressed Clint Capella as our starting center as well. We're coming off the bench, it seems, with a washed Pascal Siakam as well. Do we make the playoffs? We do sneak in there with the 8th seed, so at least we'll have another year to play in the playoffs. 14 points per game for Michael Porter Jr. there. First round matchup up against the Washington Wizards. And we definitely cannot upset that number 1 seed as we kind of get waxed. So we'll be watching the finals from the sidelines yet again here. OKC Thunder up against the Knicks, a repeat of last year. Let's see how this one turns out. Will the Thunder go back-to-back, or will the Knicks take it this time? 3-2, and the Thunder end up taking it 4-2 this time. Last year they took it 4-1. Cade Cunningham gets back-to-back MVP seasons. Pascal Siakam and Kristaps both retiring there and making the Hall of Fame. Moving us into year 15 here. And in year 15, we have a 79 overall Michael Porter Jr. playing alongside an 80 overall Clint Capella. Cade Cunningham gets a regular season MVP here with 26.7 points per game. And let's check out if we made the playoffs in our final year, most likely here. We did not. Checking out the player stats. Mikey Williams was added to the team apparently, but it was still not enough to give us a playoff push. Michael Porter Jr. put up 11.7. Yet again, a third time of these two in the playoffs here in the finals. Goes to 7 this time. Will the Knicks take it for the first time, or will the Thunder take it for the 3rd time in a row here? And the Knicks end up taking it with LaMelo getting a Finals MVP. Now 1-2 against them there. Looking at the player retirements, you see Giannis, Karl Anthony Towns, and some other fantastic players retiring there. And let's check out what's happening here in year 16. Year 16, looking for Michael Porter Jr. I do not see him. And let's see, where's Michael Porter Jr.? Probably like a 75 now. Yeah, 75. A free agent. So we'll see if anyone signs him. No one ended up signing him that entire final season. So his last season was with the Raptors. he does retire here finally after 14 years of being pro at the age of 37. Definitely didn't go as long as some guys do for these Sims, but not a bad career whatsoever. Definitely interested to see if he was able to make the Hall of Fame, and he was with a pretty good class. Him, Ben Simmons, and De'Aaron Fox all making it together there. He gets his jersey retired here by the Pistons. Obviously a great run there with the Pistons. And of course we're going to go into his awards and show you just where he was ranked all time among certain things. If you made it this far throughout the video, as always, comment GOAT, G-O-A-T in all capitals, so I know you are a true Bean Squad supporter. We're definitely going to have some fun ones coming up now that the NBA Draft Lottery is coming. Exactly where the prospects are going, we'll have a better idea, and I'll start pumping those out. If you guys are down for that, let me know down in the comment section. Smash the like button. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bean out.